Welcome to Trail Talk Reviews. I'm your host, Aaron Chimmons. Thanks for joining us. I'm joined by Cole Crosby on the Beast Coast. Welcome, Cole. Why don't you introduce yourself, let us know a little bit about you, and then we'll get on with a review of the Mount Coast T1. So over to you.
Yeah. Thanks, Aaron. So, my name's Cole Crosby. Grew up in Central New Jersey, and spent majority of my time running ultra marathons out in the East Coast. Lived in New York for a while, Central New York. That's kind of where our paths cross. And then now I live in Providence, Rhode Island, which Rhode Island, being the smallest little state, secretly has some really great little trails and hidden little nooks and crannies. But I love being out there. I've been out there for the last 4, now going on 5 years. And just this year I signed with Mount Coast as a professional trail runner, road runner, and then I'm also our New England-based sales rep for the brand as well.
I think you kind of bring a unique perspective on some of this stuff because you've got a really solid mile time, but you also have a real interest in running the longest distance races that we see. So what's your mile PR?
I think in college I hit like 4:16, which isn't bad. I mean, I got slotted into the 5K, 10K and stuff. I thought I was going to be a world-class miler, and my coach literally, after I made the team, because I had to walk on, so did a tryout, made the tryout, and he was like, I had our meeting, and he pretty much tells me, he's like, yeah, you're too slow to be a top collegiate miler. He's like, you're going to do 5K and 10K because we need bodies, is what he said. So I said, okay. So I guess I was always destined for the longer distances. Little did I know that I've kind of gravitated towards it. The sense of adventure is what really draws me to it, and I feel like the longer you go, the more that word adventure kind of pops up in with big exclamation points. And so that's I've kind of been drifting that way over the past couple of years.
Yeah, what was the first long race that you did? Like, I mean, more than 100 miles. It's losing me now. What was it?
Yeah, I mean, my first official race over 100 miles I did, I think Cocodona was actually the first one. So in 2022, I had 4 or 5 DNFs at the 100-mile distance. I did an FKT over COVID where I ran. I grew up in New Jersey, so it's a smaller state, but I ran the length of it north to south, which is almost 200 miles, and set like an unofficial record kind of deal. I ran in like 44 and a half kind of hours, and kind of realized I got a real spark from that type of distance and was like, maybe I should do a real race. So I did Cocodona. Like Sally McRae, I had really bad blisters for more than half the race. So I went out valiantly and then kind of struggled the back half with aid station time, getting my feet retaped and stuff. But yeah, after that, it was kind of like I was hooked. I was like, I got to do more of these and more beyond 100-mile kind of distance races.
Yeah, that whenever you mentioned about the New Jersey state run, that's coming back to me now because it was in the coming out of COVID part. I hate saying that word, by the way, but that's whenever I moved to New York. And then that's whenever I obviously got to connect with you. I think maybe a good thing for the audience to also know, and I don't think you're going to state it, is let me just state some of your results. You recently won the Vermont 100K with it. I mean, it's only weeks since that. You were third at Sedona Canyons, which is the 130 mile. How long is it?
Yeah, it's like about 125. I think it was like 126 and a half or something.
Yeah. So it's like the smaller Cocodona race. You were first at across years, the Aravaipa race. How in the 24 hour, how far did you run?
I did 152 miles. So that's my next big race, is getting ready for the world championship. So I'm on the US team. So yeah, that landed me a spot there, which is awesome.
Nice. Yeah, 152 miles. And you won the Cowboy 200. Was that I think that was last
Yeah,
year.
that was last September. Yep.
And in a 40 something hour effort for that.
Yeah, 41:57 for 200 miles on trail.
That's fast. I mean, what's that course like?
you're just it's like Cocodona in the sense that, or it's really it's like running in Arizona in terms of exposure. Like there's like no shade. The hardest thing about it is it's on like a sandy kind of like trail the whole way, and you run through towns. The checkpoints are towns. The biggest thing about it, Aaron, honestly, is the the amount of aid is so spread out that like it's really about how you manage yourself, because like you're going about 50K without seeing your crew, and in between that stretch, there's like water coolers that are on the course. So in terms of getting, if you run out of electrolytes, like it could be literally a marathon before you get resupplied. So I underestimated that. And it was a hot year last year and it kicked my ass. Like I was borderline, like almost rhabdo from mile 64 to the finish. And luckily, me and my crew held it together, but I was like redlining, like I'm gonna need to go to hospital if we don't figure something out. And we were just, I pulled it through the skin of our teeth ultimately, and it turned out well. But it was a nail biter, I'll tell you that.
That's a long way to hang on.
Yeah, yeah, right. Testament to the whole team and the crew and stuff. Because honestly, if it wasn't for them, like I don't think I would have been able to finish it, and to finish it at that pace too. Like they just kept me going and moving when I really wanted just to like take a nap and stuff. I didn't sleep at all either. There was like no napping that happened.
Cool. All right. Look, I think it's time to crack on with the review of this shoe, the Mount Coast T1. So let me just give you the information on how I've tested the shoe, and then we'll hear your kind of testing miles and volume. I've had the shoe since May. We're recording now in August. I've run about 15 to 18 hours in the shoe, so it's maybe just like over 100K, 2 or 3 thousand meters of vert, mostly sort of city trails, but I've also run quite a lot of road in the shoe because the shoe I found pretty comfortable and I just wanted to see what it was like. So kind of single track road, dirt roads, rooty forests trails here, which tend to be quite steep because they're kind of, built on the side of cliffs in and around Sydney. I've done long runs, easy runs, and long road runs. I've done a couple of sort of 25K road runs in the shoe. What about yourself?
Yeah, I've had since I came on board with the team, I have two pairs of T1 that I've like split the miles between. So I have one pair that's in this colorway that I've put probably 450, 500 miles on. And I mean, I'm still using it. It's been a great pair. The other pair I put probably about somewhere like maybe maybe close to 250 miles. So a good amount. I mean, I've done a lot of training. I've taken my pairs out at the Badwater Cape Fear. So I ran a section that races a 51 miler where you run like out and backs on a beach. So I got about 38 miles of sand running on sand. Got some pavement running there. I've taken it up in the White Mountains in New Hampshire. So I've done some training runs up there. I've done tons of pacing at like Arizona Monster and like where I put like 130 miles on one pair of shoes pacing. And yeah, I mean, the thing that surprised me the most is just how well the shoes have held up and like that I can still use them after normally a lot of other models that I've worn by other companies, like the shoe kind of starts to feel dead. And I still got life in my pairs, which is exciting. So
So
yeah, I've
you've
taken on everything.
you've actually like run a lot of races and things in this
Yeah.
and put I was expecting you to have big volume in the shoe obviously and you've had it for a lot longer than me. But yeah, that's pretty cool that you've used it in those types of kind of use cases. But let's run down some of the specs and we'll get the specs out and then we'll just chat about them. And if you could let me know kind of your likes and dislikes about that, and I'll do the same. But like Mount Deco say that the shoe is for ultra trail, 100K, 100 miles, and sort of beyond. And they are kind of like a long distance company. Price point is really sweet, actually, £150 or $180. And if you compare that to other sort of shoes in the market at that price, you're maybe talking like the Salomon Ultra Glide 2, the Nike Zagama 2. They're also fairly close on weight. Any other shoes that you can think of that maybe it compares to at that price point?
Some people have said it has a similar feel to like the S-Lab Genesis,
Yeah.
like the Courtney shoe. So I haven't run in that shoe, but just from some what people have told me. I mean, some other people have told me it feels like a less softer, a little bit more of a balanced kind of like Hoka Speedgoat in many ways. It's the stack isn't as high, so it just feels a little bit more grounded when you're on technical terrain. But it's got a similar kind of like multi-surface type of kind of patterning to the shoe.
Yeah. It comes in at 162 grams, which is 9.2 ounces. So it is a nice weight. It's what you would sort of expect, but not, it's also not on the heavier side, which is good. And then a 36-32 toe drop with a 4 millimeter stack, which for me actually, like, that's a great profile for me. I don't like super high stack. I still like to have that more of a closer to the ground feel, but still getting some cush. So there's enough there. What's your thoughts on like the 4 mil drop and the stack height?
Yeah, I've really liked it. I mean, I've run in shoes that are much higher stack, and I just on when you get to technical terrain, I just don't feel like I have the my feet underneath me. I feel like I'm like just trying to slow down and not try to like tip over and like twist an ankle. This shoe, I feel like it's just a good it's a really good balance of a lot of different characteristics. So I feel like I can take it on technical terrain. It's light enough to go on, dirt road, kind of like fire roads and like even pavement to run some fast miles there. And it's just like, yeah, it's a very versatile product, I feel like. So like overall, I think the stack is where it needs to be. The 4 mil is great, gives you some ground feel. There's enough flexibility to the forefoot, which I like. Yeah, I feel like out of the box the team did a great job of like figuring out the features for the shoe. I think it's well positioned.
There's 4 mil lugs is a Vibram sole and with the Megagrip Litebase, which is kind of like it's almost like becoming the industry standard. And it's there's a nice thing about that because whenever you see it's got a Vibram outsole, you just think, okay, I don't need to worry about that. It's gonna be good. And then it comes down to maybe the lug pattern about how it's gonna perform. Variations, thinking about like maybe the Merrill Skyfire Long Sky. It has the Merrill, it has the Vibram outsole, but it feels totally different than like if you stick on this or a Norda 001. So the lug pattern is important on the outsole. Speaking of like the lug pattern, I really like the lug pattern on this. Like it's kind of cool design. People have mentioned the design to me, saying, "Oh yeah, I like what they've done with that." There's a good spread of lugs, and they've got the reversed lugs on the heel, which obviously is to help give a bit more grip for descending. What's your thoughts on the lugs and the outsole pattern, and how is that raced?
Yeah, I like so like when I did that Badwater Cape Fear, the first half marathon is on pavement around the island. And I just like I go back, there's a video that Chris Kosman, the race director, posted of me running. And you normally when you're on in a trail shoe, it just sounds really cloppy. There's a lot of like noise. And I was surprised on how quiet the shoe sounded when I'm running at like a 620 per mile pace, on the pavement. And that really I really like that part of it. The thing that I think is really unique about this shoe is the flex grooves. If you can see that segmentation there, the benefit there is that it gives you really good kind of rotational stability. So when you're like on like a really sharp technical rock, which obviously with UTMB coming up, like you have that type of stuff up in the Alps for sure, and definitely like where I live in the Northeast, you have that. It gives you kind of like what people have talked about with a Hoka, where like the foam kind of wraps around the whatever like obstruction that you're running on, a log or a rock and stuff. You kind of get that with this shoe, but it's a little bit more, there's more integration in terms of how your foot interacts with that particular surface or entity. And so I really like that. It really makes the shoe feel much more lower to the ground than what the actual stack heights are, which are fairly high enough. I mean, we're in the 30s, which, isn't, that's fairly high. We could be in the 20s and it'd feel a much lower profile shoe. So yeah, so I really like that one feature.
I think 36, 32 is the upper side of medium for 2025. You know, we're seeing Hoka shoes now at hitting 42 in the like the Mafate X, I think it is. So yeah, it's getting pushed up higher and higher to now that a mid 30 is like, oh yeah, that's not such a high
Oh
stack
no.
shoe. But you know, if you go back 2, 3, 4 years, this would be the high stack shoe. But that said, it doesn't feel high stack. It feels well sort of balanced. In terms of midsole, it's got a PEBA based supercritical foam, and I think like you really feel that. It's they call it Litesale. I like the foam. I think it's in all of the runs that I did, it felt the same at the start as it did at the end. That's what you look for. That's what I personally look for. I can think back to other shoes, other brands in previous years, and once you got 2, 3 hours into a run, there was just no rebound left in the foam, and that triggered people changing shoes in Ultra for a fresher feel. I don't feel like you really need to. I don't feel like you feel the foam aging in this shoe, which I think plays into maybe the durability as well. What has the life been like in this? In
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what we're talking about here is really like one of the main claims to fame about Mountain Coast is really the midsole is fairly innovative. So most companies, it's you're right, it's PEBA based, but there's also it's two foams blended into one. So it's actually PEBA, like super shoe foam. You see marathon racers using, and then also nitrogen infused EVA. And so you get the lightness from the PEBA, you get the bounciness from the PEBA, and then the nitrogen infused EVA is also lightweight, but it creates more of that like more reliable kind of underfoot protection and cushion. And to get one continuous cell structure is very difficult to do. I guarantee you in the next 5 years, literally every company is going to be doing this type of blended foam because the performance is really undeniable. It's for me personally, like that's what sold me really on this brand was that I was given one pair of the R1s to try out. And the fact that I still run in the shoe and I have like over 900 miles in pair number one that I received last year. I mean, that the proof is in the pudding. I mean, the fact that it just continues to give back to you and not like degrade at the same level as what other products might is a really great thing. So, yeah, I think the foam is really something special with the brand.
I think maybe it's worth mentioning at this time, you know, you've mentioned the R1, which is the kind of the long distance road shoe. It's not a shoe that I particularly enjoyed. I feel like it's a little bit big for my foot. And a lot of people have asked me, is the T1 just a trail version of the R1? And it's really not. Like, it's a very, very different shoe. It, apart, you know, if it was a different colorway, it maybe would be more standout different. But like everything from like the heel collar to the rocker to the upper, everything is different. It feels totally different. And I think it's just and maybe an important thing to get out there. What do you think about the rocker? Because there is a decent rocker in this shoe. From
Hmm.
I said, you sort of feel it from it at the end of the lacing. That's kind of
Hmm.
where it rocks. What's your take on the rocker?
Yeah, I like it. I think you notice it more on more runnable terrain. Where it's more of an advantage is like when you have that little bit of that toe flex on technical rocks and stuff. That's where you get some of that more nimble agility. But definitely, I've noticed the toe off like when I'm running on a road or definitely on like a dirt like a fire road and stuff. The shoe definitely I feel like the rocker kind of just gives you that like more like that floating feeling underfoot. Yeah, I like it. I think it's in a good position too. It's not overstated either. It's not like super like like a rowboat or something like that. It really it kind of it's a gentle enough rocker that you notice it without being overdone.
Yeah, and then moving on to the upper, it's Kevlar reinforced woven mesh, and it does feel like really, really strong. Like I can't imagine there would be much that would be able to cut through this. And there's also significant sort of welded plastic
Mhm.
overlays with it. And then moving around to the back, around the heel, the collar is real. It's got like a softer material. It's almost like silk like in its feel. And then I would say that's reasonably stiff, but I just find that the whole collar feel and the upper in general is really nice. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think the heel is kind of that position point where when you're running on technical terrain, it's kind of like it's what guides the foot a little bit, especially when you're kind of running downhill. So I think having a slightly more solid heel collar is good in that regard, because if it was just like a fully collapsible heel collar, you'd be coming out of the shoe. So it gives you some structure there, but that silkiness I think is nice because that's the comfort factor, right? Like if you're running, say, 200 miles in this shoe, like, you know, do you want to really have to change this pair every aid station, or do you want to one or two pairs to last you the whole time entire time? That's kind of, I think, that nice comfort feature. And to your point about the upper as well, like it's also pretty see through. Like it's hard to see with the lighting I have tonight, but like if you're wearing like a colorful sock, like it kind of shines through there. So from like going through water and stuff, like it drains pretty well. And I've been impressed with how well the upper has held up, with also how breathable it's been too. Like it's been great in like Sedona Canyons, being in the desert heat, though it like rained a lot this year and there's tons of mud and stuff. So different conditions. But yeah, I liked how that the upper overall I think has performed really well for me.
The unique thing about Mount the Coast is this dual lacing system. All of the shoes have some version of it, whether it's the quick lace and standard lace, or with the T1, you've got the double quick lace. Personally, I'm not a massive fan of it. I think it stands out as a look. And I think that might be beneficial for the company, but I think it might be also slightly over engineered. Like with the T1, I don't ever touch the bottom quick lace. I just have it set to what I think is the kind of the right size for that part of my foot. And then I just work with the top part. It doesn't, I mean, that's totally fine for me. But I think some people have also maybe swapped laces out to standard lace. I wouldn't bother going that far because I do like the quick lace system, and it works with this little sort of lace hood that you can kind of just tuck it into. So, what do you think about the quick lace? And has it been useful in races? Do you tighten both each time?
I do. It's worked. I mean, it's worked well for me. I mean, I have a pretty narrow foot, honestly. And like, that's the thing that has also impressed me about Mountain Coast is that generally, like in a brand like an Ultra or Topo, I swim in the toe box and I get blisters and stuff because I just too much movement. The Mountain Coast shoes are wide enough. Like they're almost like a tradition, like where most shoes are like it's say a men's D width. Mountain Coast is almost like a 2E width in terms of just the toe box, and that little extra volume has been nice for the longer events. But I agree. So like the biggest thing for me has been in terms of like if someone orders a pair now, like it comes with the regular tie laces, which I haven't experimented with in the shoe, but I think I might try it on one pair just to see the security. I know people have told me, just being a rep, like one of the bits of feedback has been just like heel slippage. So like in terms of the overall fit, in terms of the volume within that top part of the shoe, there's been some sliding that's happened on maybe more technical terrain. And so I think Mountain Coast has solved that problem by saying, well, if we're providing you the tie lace, so that's an option to get more security there. The other thing in terms of the speed laces, I think for a narrower foot, the laces are kind of long, and that can be kind of where do you tuck them in and like how the pockets are designed. So that was when I first got my first pairs, that was one of the big things is like the how you tuck the bottom lace. You tuck it back up through, but I wish there was another like little garage to stuff things in because, you know, as you know, running in the Northeast, your one like tree root or like tree branch or like shrubs, like there's tons of, especially like I've raced the Quebec Mega Trail where it's like the trail is just like totally covered by bushes and like plants and stuff, and it's so easy to like catch or snag something and just like totally fall and hurt yourself. So I think having something that allows to protect when you have the lace cinched up would be a good like additional improvement. But I think overall, like the shoe has been a really good just initial kind of debut to the marketplace. But yeah, the lacing I think could be tweaked a little bit to be even better.
Yeah, I remember actually messaging you some many weeks ago. Like it's we might be going back into at some point in May. Like, what way do you tuck the
Yeah.
quickliest at the
Yeah.
bottom? And yeah, I just like loop it back in on itself,
Yeah.
and then on the top one, I just like tuck it in through and maybe loop it through there. So I feel like maybe the Salomon lace garage might be better, but look, I'm sure it's something that would be maybe tweaked in the next version of this shoe because it's not perfect, but it's also not really a big deal. Do they call it tuned fit? Is that what they call this lacing system?
Yes, that's like the kind of politically correct term that you would see on our website and all that stuff.
Okay. I'm a UK 9.5, which is a US 10.5 in these, and they fit true to size. Like I'm a 9.5 in almost every brand. So yeah, uh, no issues with the fit. What else do we have to talk about here? Yeah, so it's a neutral shoe, um, but it does offer some sort of stability because it's the way the kind of the foam like tapers out a little bit, so you get
Mhm.
there's some broadness in it and you get stability there. Any thoughts on like the platform or the whether you prefer a neutral or what's your feelings on that?
Yeah, I like a neutral shoe, especially for the trails. Like I have pretty flat feet, so like if I went to a running store, they're probably going to put me into some like heavier stability shoe. Um, but definitely on the trail side, I like to have kind of a neutral platform, something balanced that I can kind of like allow for your something that's adaptable. I think is always nice. So able to in this respect, like it's if I needed to throw an insole in there for more overall stability, I could do that. And it's not gonna it'll change the performance of the shoe a little bit for me in terms of the foot support, but um, you know, overall, it's you're given kind of a platform that you can kind of adapt based on your own needs, and I think that's always a good thing rather than it be one way and then that one way is not the right way for most people out there.
Yeah. I've tried this shoe with the Sidus Trail insole, and it has like there's a little bit of stability, and it works really well. I quite like that. Sometimes I would get like a more of a the arches would drop a little bit as the foot fatigues. I haven't run long enough in this shoe, as I said, like 2-3 hours is my longest run in this shoe, and so I haven't really noticed that. But the side insole does fit and it works quite well if somebody is looking some stability. It also has other benefits and stuff that we don't need to go into. This is Trail Talk, so we need to talk about vibes. Does this shoe have some vibes? All of the shoes come in black and white, and if they released this shoe and it was red and green and yellow and just like some gaudy bright colors or neon colorways, I wouldn't really been that interested. Like that's one of the things that kind of bugs me with testing shoes is you can't like very often I'll say like, "Yep, I'll test that shoe. It's can you send me a black? Can you send me a white? Can you send me a neutral tone?" Because I don't want to have to run around in like this god awful looking shoe. But all of the Mount Coast shoes come black and white, and this also had a June colorway, which may have been limited edition, but it was also nice. Thoughts on the look?
I love them. Yeah, I mean the Dune color, which is kind of like almost like a brown and tan, is really nice. That's one of my favorite colorways. I think it's I think what I'm seeing with Mounted Coast, both like when I'm in running shops and then also just like out in the field, like running events, is a little bit of both. Like people like the are kind of like all blacks, the more the neutral colors, but then also some of the like how we're kind of like taking some pops of color too have done really well as well. All the color palettes there's some inspiration from nature a little bit too. Like this is taken from a trail, pretty much volcanic ash that's taken from a trail in Hawaii. I think it's like one of the national parks. So it kind of gives this like if you look at some of our marketing on our Instagram and like on the website and stuff, there's like a runner that's like running down like one of those volcanic ash kind of trails and paths. And so that's kind of the inspiration for the colorway for this one. We have a new
I think
shoe
they call
coming
it
out.
Tephra. Is that what they call
Yeah,
this colorway?
that's the name of the colorway. Yeah. We have a new shoe coming out in the fall that has the colors are inspired by national parks in the United States. So everything, the R1, that road shoe that you brought, we had a summer colorway for some of our road shoes, looking at pretty much like a saguaro national park, so like cactuses. So the yellow was kind of that like sand kind of color, and then the green was kind of the cactus with the light hitting it. So yeah, I like looking at, I think when we look at nature as like inspiration, I think it's yields us beautiful silhouettes, you know? I mean, rather than these fluorescent neon colors like we're going to Las Vegas, I think I'm not a fan of that either because this is a shoe that you can wear casually and look really good, but you can also it's gonna look really good when you're tearing it up on the trails too. Like you can use your apparel to kind of like brighten things up and accessorize. And I think it's a very clean modern look. And I think that's also where the market's kind of going as well within running, which is exciting too, because you want a shoe that can really do a lot of things and do it well. And also, do well on the trails, but also like be something that people will compliment you when you're hanging out at the pub, right? Like that kind of thing.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think it's a good look.
it's important for a shoe to not dictate a look. I think. I mean, it might be a controversial opinion for some, but like yeah, sometimes you're maybe gonna grab a Norda 001 in a particular colorway, but you're not. If it's a yellow or a red or whatever, you're not gonna pair it with other bright colors. And that's
Yeah.
maybe I'm doing some style school here, but like you're not gonna pair that with other bright colors. You might be going more black, white, or whatever up top and letting the shoes have the color. So whenever you've got like such a neutral colorway on the foot, you can be maybe more expressive up top. The only drawback I would say on the looks, which I kind of get why they're doing it. They're a new company. They're trying to get the name out there. I just think the wording is like too in your face, but I can see why they've done it. Like if you're walking down the street in these shoes, nobody knows what they are, but if they look at them, they can see the name. So I kind of guess it's like free advertising
Mhm.
on the foot of everyone that buys them. What do you think of this name? Do you think there'll be any changes there?
I mean, I know in terms of like some prototypes, there's in terms of like the labeling, it's been a little bit different. Not necessarily just like the wording here. It's been more kind of like taking the this mountain logo
Yeah.
and kind of doing some more of something visually with that. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know yet where we're gonna go with in terms of the direction. I kind of I'm one of those, I think I'm more of a generalist, I think, in a way. Like I kind of want to see shoes that kind of incorporate both. Like some models that have the full mounted coast and then maybe others that do like the more of the singular like logo branding where it's just like the little icon, the mountain icon. So we'll see. I think it's up to all the people out there that, we want to listen and hear your feedback. And it's like if everyone likes a certain look, maybe we'll change things and go that route. So
Yeah, well, maybe that's something that we could ask for in the comments. Would like to know: do the people like this along the outside? Maybe swap this to the inside and put this much nicer kind of logo mountain look on the outside, which might aesthetically be more pleasing. Might also be worth noting at this point, like this little mountain logo, which is part of it, also matches the lugs. Which I think is just kind of like a nice little touch. Um, should have mentioned that earlier. So, last thing on the agenda really is to talk about the durability. The Mount the Coast shoes, like as part of their kind of the mission objective, is the durability piece. And whenever you pair that with the price point, it's just their incredible value. We've also seen like lots of world records and long distance records in the Mount the Coast shoes. What do you got? What can we get from you on the durability piece of the T1 specifically? Like,
yeah,
I would love to know maybe if you could send it around those races maybe that we talked about earlier on. Like, what races have you run in the T1, and have you swapped shoes in those races? Because you have the ability to swap into other models. Like, are you sticking on the T1 for 100K and that's it? You're
yeah,
locked and loaded?
yeah. So Badwater Cape Fear, I did that in March. 51 miler, mixed terrain, but mostly running on sand. I wore one pair. I wore the dune, so not the tephra, but the dune color, the brown. I wore
Suitable.
that pair for. run because I'm running on sand, right? So it kind of
Yeah.
matched the environment well. So I wore that pair. Um, Sedona Canyons, I did switch. So I started with the Tephra pair, and because of the mud, the shoe like what was I have a picture and I can send it to you just to show like what the shoe looked like after literally 100 miles because I switched at Fort Tuthill, which is mile 100 of the 125, and I think most other people's shoes that I saw, you couldn't even see the lug pattern, but my lugs were still sticking out, and this mud was soul crushing. Like, I don't think people realize how bad it was, and I'm used to running in mud in the Northeast and, like, all the different places I've been, and this is mud that just was, like it just you could not get it off your shoes. It just would
Yeah,
keep
it was a there was a
accumulating.
real it was like a real clay
It
type of
was.
mud,
Yeah.
I guess, because 'cause they're not used to such, heavy rainfall in Arizona and that type of soil. Send me a picture
Yeah.
of the shoe with the clay mud, and I'll stick it in the Trail Talk, shoes and gear broadcast channel whenever I post about this review so people can see what we're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, honestly, Aaron, generally, like I usually just stuck with one pair. Like Sedona Canyons is the only one where I switched. I wore the H1, which is a hybrid shoe coming out in the fall for Vermont 100K. And then my other races were anything related, like across the years, I wore the R1. But yeah, and then I've paced, like I've been out there in the field, like I've paced a friend 130 miles of the Arizona Monster. And that was mostly in a T1 pair. And the shoe was
130
awesome.
miles pacing?
Yeah, that's how
You
I
got your
trained.
mo
That's how I got ready for Sedona Canyon. So
you got your
I got some time on feet. Yeah, I got to really check out that course. But that's the stuff that I do. Like when I'm not racing, I'm out there, volunteering, crewing, pacing, like trying to be involved with the community as much as I can. And I think it's great, especially for events that I maybe want to do in the future, like Bigfoot 200 is coming up. I know that you've run that race and really enjoy it. And even though I didn't get to like, it was a weird course last year. I got to like pace like 100 miles of it, even though it was out and backs. But like, it makes me want to run Bigfoot because like just seeing that course and that trail, I was like, okay, like initially I thought this was not going to be my cup of tea, but this is definitely my cup of tea. And so I think it's a great opportunity for people to like scope out without having to like have the pressure of actually just signing up on a whim to like check out the events. But yeah, I mean, again, I think back to the shoe. I mean, I think for me, I've just been so impressed with like the fact that I've only had two pairs for the first half of the year, and I've done pretty much put miles on one pair more than the other, but like they're nowhere near dead. Like I probably can get another 400 miles out of a pair before I feel like it's totally shot. And so I've been impressed. I think the value in terms of durability is definitely there. The uppers, I've had no problems with that. People have told me in terms of the running shops out there in the community that it's held up really, really well. And yeah, I think the overall the midsole foam is still able to kind of bounce and give you a pretty good experience for a really long time, which is kind of the premise of the brand.
What about the durability of the lugs? Because yeah, I
Mhm.
can see we've got your feedback on the midsole. I'm pretty sure that the upper is gonna stand the test of time. What about the actual lugs?
I mean, I think like any Vibram outsole, and like they wear down over time, and it depends on what surface you're on. Like if you're running on a lot of pavement, like and especially in the hot summer, like it's gonna wear down quicker. I think the benefit of Vibram is that you still get some. The rubber is still tacky enough that you still get some grip even as it wears down. Like you see that with like like any of the Norda models. Like I think that's one of their great claims to fame, And so I think by going with the Vibram compound, I think there's that reliability within the marketplace where people are like, okay, I know what I'm going to get and expect. And I think that that's one of the benefits of Vibram is that even as it wears down, it's still going to be better than a shoe that maybe isn't using Vibram and it starts to wear down. And then it's like being on an ice rink where, you know, any shoe that's using a pretty good outsole is going to give some bite to it. It won't be perfect, but yeah, I would say that's probably one of the weakest points of the shoe in a sense. Like, but so far from my experience on a lot of different terrains, like I've definitely worn the lugs a little bit, but they're still tacky and still able to grip well.
And
So
it
yeah, I
is
think
the
it's
one
been
part
good.
of the shoe that is replaceable.
Yeah, sure. We can
I've
resole the shoe, right?
multiple shoes behind me that have been resoled with the Vibram Zegalite sole. So yeah, I guess that's something I haven't got to that point yet. But if the midsole lasts, if the upper lasts, and the outsole naturally wears down as it's meant to because you're using the rubber, then you can replace it and get longer life. So yeah, I think it definitely ticks the box in durability. All right. So I think if somebody is after a trail shoe that is versatile, it'll do long days on the trails. You can do road to trail. It's also going to last. Like, I don't know how long I'm going to have this, but it's going to last for a long time. Then I would say like the T1 delivers. Where I would maybe want to try before I buy might be if I had a super wide foot, which I think it might be more popular in America, like the wide foot. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
maybe it's coming from years of Ultra or whatever being one of the primary shoes. So I think it is a little bit more of an, I wouldn't say it's a narrow shoe, but it's more narrow than the wide platform shoes. So maybe that's something to consider. Definitely a shoe that I would happily recommend. If anyone is viewing this has run in the T1, we would love to know what you like about it, what you dislike about it. Do you want the name removed from it in the next model? Post it below. Let them know. Mount the Coast are pretty good, I think, at listening to feedback. That is what I'm hearing. Without anything else to say, I just want to thank you for your time, Cole, and good luck with the rest of your year.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. Yeah, check it out, people. I think my one little bit on the shoe is that to me, it's one of the more balanced trail shoes on the market. So if you're looking to pick, like, have a one shoe quiver for the trails, this could be a very good option for that. It does a lot of things well. So yeah, if you want a shoe that can one-time purchase that will hopefully give you miles on a lot of different terrains time after time, this might be a good choice for you.
Well said. All right. Thanks, Cole.
Thank you.
Peace.
See ya.